Welcome to an exploration of a question that haunts so many of us. Why do we keep falling for the wrong person? Drawing from the profound insights of Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist who delved deep into the human psyche, we're going to uncover the hidden reasons behind our romantic missteps. This isn't about blame or quick fixes. It's about understanding the unconscious forces at play in our hearts and minds. Through Jung's lens, we'll break this down into chapters, each revealing a layer of why we're drawn to partners who might not be right for us. So let's dive into the psychology of love, attraction, and self-discovery. The shadow and unconscious attraction. Let's begin with one of Carl Jung's most haunting insights. The shadow. The shadow is not a villain. It is the unacknowledged twin of our personality. It is composed of everything we deny, suppress, or exile from the conscious self. Our anger, envy, lust, fear, insecurity, hunger for power, need for love. These all live in the shadow when we are taught they are unacceptable. But the shadow does not disappear when we reject it. No, it sinks deeper. It waits, it watches, and eventually it reappears. Not in the mirror, but in the people we fall for. Especially the ones who confuse us. The ones we label as wrong. You see, what we call chemistry is often the soul's magnetic pull toward its own reflection in disguise. That charming, wild soul who disrupts your sense of control. He might awaken the freedom you've buried beneath years of compliance and restraint. That cold, distant lover who leaves you feeling small. They may be reenacting the way you abandon yourself emotionally, repeating a pattern until you finally see it. These are not coincidences. Jung believed our unconscious doesn't select lovers at random. It seeks integration, completion, wholeness. When someone walks into your life who embodies the very traits you've disowned, it can feel electric, fated, cosmic. But it is not necessarily them you're drawn to. It's the missing part of you they carry. We fall for our shadow when we haven't yet owned it. When we haven't made peace with our rage, our sensuality, our ambition, our chaos. We are drawn to those who live it outwardly because they give us permission to touch what we've banished. It feels like love, but it is also a call, a mirror, a reckoning. This is why relationships that begin with such fire often end in confusion. We think we've found our soulmate. In truth, we've found our shadow mate. We project our deepest needs onto them. We ask them to soothe our wounds, to fulfill the fantasies we've starved for years. But no one outside of us can permanently carry what we refuse to own. And when they fail to meet that sacred ideal, we blame them. We mourn. We repeat. But if we're brave enough to look closer, to ask why we're so magnetized, we begin to see this isn't about love alone. It's about the psyche attempting to heal, the soul trying to return to itself. The wrong person may be exactly who you needed to awaken what was sleeping within. Not to stay necessarily, but to show you where your inner work lies. What remains fragmented. What longs to be seen. This is the paradox of shadow love. It's not about fixing the other, but retrieving the parts of yourself you've abandoned. Sometimes the people who hurt us the most aren't villains, they're mirrors. And if we pay attention, they reveal the hidden architecture of our unconscious. Because in the end, love is not just an emotion. It is an initiation, a sacred mirror into the self. And the shadow, it is not there to shame you. It is there to bring you home. The Anima and Animus, our inner opposite, Carl Jung gave us a mirror not just into the unconscious, but into the very soul of our romantic longing. He called it the Anima and the Animus, the inner feminine in the man's psyche and the inner masculine in the woman's. These are not simply traits or roles, but living, breathing archetypes. Invisible forces within us that shape how we perceive love, how we desire, and whom we choose. The anima is a man's hidden soul image, soft and mysterious. She may appear in his dreams as a muse, a siren, a nurturing guide, or a chaotic enchantress. She is not one woman, but many faces. The animus in a woman is her inner structure, strong, focused, and often critical. He shows up as the heroic figure, the wise father, the lover who commands attention. Together, they are our unconscious expectations of the opposite sex, our psychic blueprints for love. But here's the secret. They are not real people. They are internal images, formed by childhood impressions, shaped by cultural myths, sculpted by personal longing. A man who grew up with an emotionally unavailable mother might chase cold, mysterious women, believing his anima lives in their aloof beauty. A woman raised by an overpowering father might be drawn to stoic, dominant men, mistaking them for the strength her animus idealizes. So when we say, "I'm just into this type," we must ask, whose type is this really? Is it our conscious self-choosing, or is it the anima or animus seeking projection? This is where love becomes dangerous and divine. The anima and animus can seduce us into idealizing others, projecting the deepest needs of our soul onto their face. We don't see them, we see through them. We assign them roles in our internal mythology: savior, lover, destroyer, redeemer. And the trouble begins when they fail to live up to it. When she is not the goddess we imagined. When he is not the hero we expected. Disillusionment sets in, not because they changed, but because we never truly saw them. We saw our inner opposite dancing on their body, yet this is not a mistake, it is a rite of passage. Jung believed the anima and animus were not meant to stay projected onto others forever. They are guides, teachers, bridges to the self. A man who integrates his anima becomes emotionally whole, able to feel, to intuit, to connect. A woman who integrates her animus finds her voice, her direction, her fire, her power. When we reclaim these inner figures from the people we fall for, we no longer demand that love complete us. We become complete and meet others not in need, but in presence. This is the sacred task of the anima and animus, not to lead us into obsession, but to awaken us into integration, to show us the faces of our soul, not so we can worship them in another, but so we can recognize them in ourselves. And in doing so, love is no longer projection. It becomes revelation. Repetition, compulsion, and childhood wounds. Why do we keep choosing the same kind of person over and over, despite the pain they bring? Why does love so often feel like a wound we willingly reopen? Carl Jung and Freud, though they diverged in many ways, both touched on this haunting truth. We repeat what we do not repair. Freud called it repetition compulsion, an unconscious drive to recreate old wounds, not to suffer, but to resolve. Jung took it deeper. He saw it not just as a neurotic loop, but as the psyche's attempt at healing, an inner alchemy in motion. When something inside us remains unresolved, an unmet need, a broken bond, a betrayal that was never named, it doesn't vanish. It festers in the unconscious. And the unconscious does not forget. Instead, it leads us, quietly, insistently, back to the scene of the original fracture. Not to torment us, but to offer a chance at wholeness. But that path is treacherous, because it rarely looks like healing at first. It looks like attraction to the emotionally unavailable man, just like the father who never truly saw you. It feels like falling in love with the woman whose love you constantly have to earn, just like the mother who gave affection only when you were good. These relationships don't just feel familiar, they are familiar. The emotional script is already written in your bones. You chase what you once needed, hoping that this time the ending will be different, that this person will choose you, love you, stay. But here's the paradox. You're not really choosing the person in front of you. You're choosing the echo, the memory, the unfinished sentence of your childhood longing. Jung believed that our psyche carries an innate urge toward individuation, toward becoming whole. And so it recreates these old dynamics, hoping that through repetition we might finally break through. But unless we bring these patterns into the light of consciousness, they control us, silently, painfully. Think about it. If you were the child who felt invisible, you might now find yourself with partners who overlook you, because invisibility feels like home. If you were raised in chaos, unpredictability might now feel like love, because peace feels unfamiliar, even threatening. These wounds run deep, and they whisper lies. This is what love feels like. This is what you deserve. This is all there is. But those are not truths. They are emotional memories waiting to be rewritten. And that rewriting begins with awareness. Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. We blame bad luck, bad timing, bad partners. But perhaps the pattern is the teacher. Perhaps the wrong person is the mirror. not of what we lack, but of what we have yet to heal. To break the cycle is not to stop loving, it is to love more wisely, to grieve what was missing, to give yourself what no one gave you. Because when you stop reenacting the past, you stop calling pain love. And for the first time, you begin to choose with your eyes open. The role of projection in love, at its most intoxicating, is rarely about the other person. It is about what we see in them, or more precisely, what we project onto them. Carl Jung understood this well. He wrote that projection is one of the most powerful mechanisms of the unconscious, and nowhere is it more intense than in romantic love, when we meet someone and feel that electric pull, that sense of recognition, destiny, even obsession. It is often not them we're seeing, a piece of ourselves reflected back at us. We fall in love with a mirror, not of who they are, but of who we unconsciously hope or fear we are. The perfect partner who seems to embody grace, brilliance, passion. You might be seeing your own latent potential, qualities within you that have not yet been fully lived, and so they are cast outward onto someone else. You admire them, but what you're really admiring is the part of you that longs to come alive. On the flip side, the partner who wounds you, who triggers your deepest insecurities, might not be a villain at all. You may be projecting your own feelings of unworthiness onto them, assigning them power they never asked for. You believe they hold the key to your value, that their love will validate your existence. But this is a fragile illusion. Because the truth is, they're only playing the role your unconscious has cast them in. Jung said, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. But the transformation can only be real when projection ends and presence begins. As long as we are entangled in projection, we are not in relationship with the actual person. We are in relationship with our fantasy, our fear, our hope. We are not seeing them, we are seeing through them, and this is why love often disappoints. Not because the other person failed to be enough, but because they were never the image we imagined. The mask slips, and we feel betrayed. But in truth, we were the ones wearing the blindfold. Jung's remedy was not to avoid love, but to withdraw the projection, to see clearly, to let go of the illusion and meet the real human being, flawed, nuanced, unpredictable, and in doing so, to also meet yourself. Projection is not inherently bad. In fact, it is how we begin to connect, how the psyche tries to reintegrate its missing parts. But it cannot be the foundation of lasting love, because what begins in projection must end in revelation. So when love turns to confusion or admiration becomes resentment, pause. Ask yourself, what part of me did I place onto them? And then ask, can I reclaim it? Because the more you see yourself clearly, the more you will see others as they are, not as saviors, not as villains, but as fellow travelers on the road to wholeness. The quest for individuation. What if every heartbreak, every failed relationship, every moment you fell for the wrong person was not a mistake, but a message? In Carl Jung's vision of the psyche, we are not here merely to find happiness or romantic bliss. We are here to become whole. This journey toward wholeness, toward the integration of all that we are, is what Jung called individuation. And love, especially the kind that leaves us raw, exposed, and aching, is one of its most potent catalysts. Individuation is not about becoming someone new. It is about becoming who you truly are beneath the masks, the wounds, the projections. It is the sacred process of integrating the shadow, befriending your inner opposite, the anima or animus, and taking back all the pieces of yourself you once gave away for love, for safety, for approval. The wrong person. They often carry the blueprint for this integration. That partner who ignored your needs, who never saw you fully. Perhaps they mirrored the ways you abandoned yourself. That person who triggered your jealousy or fear of rejection. They might have awakened wounds you've kept hidden since childhood. These encounters hurt not because they are wrong, but because they are true. They shine light on parts of the self you have not yet claimed. Jung believed that the unconscious is always seeking balance. And so we are drawn, again and again, to people who reflect our unfinished inner work. Not to punish us, but to heal us. to show us where we are not yet whole, to press on the bruise so we finally pay attention. Individuation asks us to stop blaming others for the pain they reflect, to stop chasing people who will complete us, fix us, rescue us from our emptiness, because no one can fill the void you have not dared to explore. You must go into that void yourself. You must face the loneliness, the longing, the fear. You must walk through the silence of not being chosen, not being seen, not being loved the way you wanted. And in that silence, you begin to hear something else, the faint voice of your own soul calling you home. This is the sacred work of becoming, and it is not easy. It requires the courage to let go of illusions, to stop seeking the ideal partner and start becoming the ideal self. It requires sitting in the fire of your own emotions and realizing you are not broken. You are being refined. When you begin to individuate, your relationships change. It is the beginning of real love, where two whole people meet, not to complete each other, but to walk side by side, witnessing each other's becoming. And when you reach that place, where your love is no longer born of need, but of presence, you will know you are no longer falling for the wrong person. You have become the right one. The persona and false facades. We enter love dressed for the part. We smile just right. Say the words they want to hear. We become a curated version of ourselves, polished, pleasing, palatable. Carl Jung called this mask the persona. It's the social face we wear to survive the world. And in love, it becomes our shield, our strategy, our seduction. But here's the danger. When we lead with the persona, we invite others to fall in love not with us, but with our performance. The persona is not inherently bad. It helps us navigate society, protect our most tender places, and function in the world. But when we mistake it for our identity, or when we use it to hide the deeper, more vulnerable truths of who we are, we begin to build relationships on illusion, on fragments, on shadows. And so we find ourselves entangled with someone who praises our confidence but knows nothing of our fear, someone who falls for our ambition but is blind to our exhaustion, someone who loves our laughter but cannot hold our silence. And we do the same, falling for someone's charm, status, beauty, or bravado, only to feel confused when the truth emerges, when the layers peel back and we realize we never truly met the person at all. This is where so many loves unravel, when the mask slips. Jung believed that the persona is necessary, but only if we remain conscious of it. It must serve us, not imprison us. The danger arises when we become identified with it, forgetting that beneath the mask lives a fuller, messier, more beautiful truth. In love, that truth must be risked, because no connection built solely on performance can endure. Eventually, the real self aches to be seen. And the tragedy is this. When we've only shown the persona, the person who loves us cannot truly hold the parts we never revealed. We suffer in silence, wondering why they don't understand us, when we never gave them the chance to. The solution? Radical authenticity. This does not mean exposing your soul to everyone you meet, but it does mean learning to strip the mask when love calls. It means allowing someone to see you cry when you'd rather smile, to admit your doubts when you'd rather sound sure, to say, this is who I am, flawed, afraid, but real. Authenticity is terrifying. It opens the door to rejection, not of the mask, but of you. And yet, it is the only door that leads to real intimacy. Because only when you show up as your whole self can you be fully loved, and only then can you love fully in return. When we dissolve the persona in love, we stop chasing fantasy and start relating soul to soul. We no longer fall for someone because they check a box or play a role. We fall for the truth of their being. And that is not just love. That is liberation. The collective unconscious and archetypal attractions, beneath the surface of our personal longings, deeper than our wounds and wishes, lives something older, ancient, unspoken. Carl Jung called it the collective unconscious, a shared psychic inheritance that holds the blueprints of human experience. Myths, symbols, dreams, all echo from this wellspring. And love, in all its mystery, is often shaped by these unseen forces. You think you're choosing, you think you're falling for them. But often you're falling for an archetype, a primordial pattern within your psyche that whispers, this one. This is the one. Perhaps it's the hero archetype, the savior who seems strong enough to rescue you from your inner chaos. Or the lover, passionate, magnetic, dripping with fire and intensity. Or maybe it's the trickster, unpredictable, exciting and full of promise, yet secretly hollow. These figures don't come from nowhere. They rise from the collective storybook of humanity, echoed in every culture, religion, and fairy tale. The danger is not in being drawn to them. The danger is in not knowing why. Because when you're unaware, you don't see the person in front of you. You see the symbol. And symbols are powerful. They bypass reason. They speak to your soul in riddles. That's why an ordinary meeting can feel mythic. Why a person you just met can seem fated. Why you chase certain types over and over again, believing this time will be different. But archetypal attraction, unchecked, can lead you down paths of illusion. You may follow the hero only to find he's fighting battles that have nothing to do with you. You may cling to the lover, blind to how their charm masks a fear of depth. Or you may idolize the wise one, giving your power away to someone who never asked to hold it. So what's the path forward? Jung urged us to name the archetypes, to read the myths, study the symbols, listen to our dreams. These patterns live not just in stories, but in you. When you identify them, you reclaim your choice. You see the story you're living and ask, is this my myth or one I've inherited? When you become conscious of the archetype, you begin to see the person behind the projection. You stop searching for gods and monsters in lovers and start seeing the tender, complex human beneath the myth. Real love is not a fairy tale. It's not the hero saving the maiden. It's two humans, raw, evolving, uncertain, choosing to meet without masks. Archetypes may spark attraction, but it is awareness that allows intimacy to take root. So if you keep falling for the same kind of story, stop and ask, what role am I playing? What archetype is calling me? And then ask, what would happen if I stepped out of the story and just stood there as myself? The role of synchronicity in love. Have you ever met someone and felt as if the universe held its breath? You glance across a crowded room, and in that instant time seems to ripple. You discover uncanny similarities, shared birthdays, mutual dreams. You think, it can't be coincidence, and maybe it isn't. Carl Jung called this synchronicity, a meaningful coincidence without a causal link, yet charged with significance. These moments defy logic, but they feel real, so real, in fact, that many mistake them for fate, destiny, soulmate signs. It's easy to believe, this is the one, we met at the exact right time, the universe must be speaking, and perhaps it is. But Jung warned us, synchronicity is not necessarily a green light for romance. It is a mirror, a message, a moment that reflects the psyche's deeper movement toward wholeness. The wrong person may still arrive wrapped in synchronicity. They may appear right when you feel broken. They may echo your deepest longings or awaken forgotten parts of you. But that doesn't mean they are meant to stay. Some encounters are not about permanence. They are about transformation. That uncanny meeting may be your soul's way of calling you into consciousness. It may be asking you to pay attention. What is this person showing you about yourself? What are you awakening to? What are you resisting? The danger is in confusing synchronicity with salvation. We want to believe that meaning equals forever, but sometimes meaning simply equals moment. A lesson, a turning point, a chapter, not the whole book. When we romanticize synchronicity, we risk handing our power over to signs. We overlook red flags because the timing felt divine. We excuse pain because the meeting felt fated. We stay in suffering because it once felt magical. But Jung's deeper wisdom was this: synchronicity arises not to bind us to others, but to bind us to ourselves, to awaken us, to guide us inward. So when the universe winks at you, pause. Don't rush toward fantasy. Reflect. Ask, what is this moment asking me to see? Sometimes the wrong person appears at the right time to illuminate the right lesson. They're not your forever, they're your mirror. And when you learn to see beyond the surface of synchronicity, when you ask not, is this love? But what is this teaching me? You begin to live not in fate, but in freedom, the inner child and emotional needs. Jung's work emphasizes the inner child, the part of us that carries childhood emotions and needs. If your inner child felt unloved, you might seek partners who withhold affection, hoping to finally feel worthy. If it craved safety, you might cling to controlling partners, mistaking restriction for security. These choices reflect unmet emotional needs, not rational decisions. Healing the inner child is key to breaking this cycle. Jung advocated nurturing this part of yourself through self-compassion, creative expression, or therapy. By meeting your own emotional needs, you reduce the tendency to seek partners who fill those gaps in unhealthy ways, opening the door to balanced relationships. Building conscious relationships. So, how do we stop falling for the wrong person? Jung's answer lies in consciousness. Start by observing your patterns. Who are you drawn to and why? What triggers or excites you in relationships? These are clues to your shadow, anima, animus, or inner child. Tools like journaling, dream analysis, or therapy can uncover these drivers. Next, work on integrating these parts. Embrace your shadow, balance your anima or animus, and heal your inner child. Take responsibility for your projections. Instead of blaming partners for not meeting expectations, ask what you projected onto them. Cultivate authenticity by aligning your persona with your true self. Finally, approach love as a path to growth, not completion. By becoming more whole, you'll choose partners who align with your authentic self, not your unconscious wounds.